Welcome to Red and Blue. I'm Major Garrett, coming to you from our Washington, D.C. bureau. We thank you very much for joining us. We begin tonight with President Biden leaning into an issue that Democrats want to keep front and center, if they can, in the final stretch of this midterm campaign season. The issue? Abortion. The president pledged that the first bill he will send to Congress next year will be legislation codifying Roe v. Wade. That is, if, and it's a big if, Democrats manage to keep control of both chambers of Congress. Mr. Biden also said that if a national abortion ban were to pass, another big if, he would veto it. For more on this, CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins us now. Ed, if you grant me this permission, I want to shift topics from abortion ever so briefly to Strategic Petroleum Reserve news made by the White House today, and we expect comments on that and the economy more broadly tomorrow. True?
Yeah. And that's essentially all they'll tell us for now, Major. Remember, about 180 million barrels have been tapped out of the SPR, or the nation's oil stockpiles, this year so far. News leaked last night that he's going to announce plans to do more of that. Today, all officials would say is there'll be more on that to say tomorrow, but didn't necessarily deny it. That would be addressing what in most surveys across the country, produced by this news organization and others, is issue number one. Prices being too high, gas prices especially, because they drive the price of just about everything else. So White House going to great lengths to suggest, even in the wake of this abortion address today, that he's still focused on bringing prices down, which this White House understands, Democrats painfully understand, remains issue number one, and for which they may very well suffer at the polls.
But, Ed, this White House also hopes that abortion and privacy rights writ large remain a galvanizing part of the conversation for not only their base, the Democratic base, but persuadable or as yet to be persuaded swing voters.
It has to be if they have any hope of winning the most competitive congressional races across the country. Yes, which is why in his remarks today, you heard the president twice say, remember how you felt back in June when this announcement was made by the Supreme Court, when the decision came down. The anger, the confusion, the concern you had for yourself or for women you know who would be directly affected by this decision. They're seeing the surveys, including ours that was released on Sunday, the Battleground Tracker, that shows while abortion remains important to a lot of voters, especially women across the country, it's not top of mind. It is not the leading issue of concern for many voters as it was even just a few weeks ago. So he's trying to maintain that intensity and remind people of the potential consequences of a Republican Congress. But as you pointed out, he's saying here, the first bill I'll send to a Democratic-controlled Congress is one that would codify Roe into law, make it the law of the land again. Remember, they tried that, and they couldn't get it done in the Senate because there were moderate Democrats who said they can't support that kind of a law. So you're going to need probably closer to 60 Democratic senators around to make that happen, or elimination of the filibuster. Those other things add to why this is such an italicized, underlined, and bolded if, because the prospects of a fully controlled Democratic Congress that's willing to do what he's suggesting here would require a lot of things to happen that don't currently look like they're set to happen.
And Ed, with your permission again, let's just tighten the focus again on that filibuster component, because let's say it's a 51-49 Senate and Democrats outperform, meaning they have 51 Senate seats, Republicans have 49. That doesn't necessarily mean they would be in a position to get rid of the filibuster, which is the only way this could happen if you don't have 60 votes.
Bingo. Because, for example, you got 51. Let's say those 51 include Joe Manchin and a moderate like Tim Ryan or Angus King, who's in the caucus, even though he's an independent, or some other Democrat who says, I don't want to get rid of the filibuster. Because throughout those conversations the last 2 years, there have been a handful of Democrats who've kept quiet about this. Mark Kelly from Arizona is the other one I'm thinking of now, who have said, who haven't committed to tossing the filibuster for reasons like that. So, again, that's not a guarantee. This is all pie-in-the-sky politics designed to keep those most concerned about this, or those that they think could be most concerned about this, motivated and engaged on this and other issues. And you look at what he's doing this week, promising things regarding abortion rights, tapping the petroleum reserves to demonstrate that he's trying to do whatever he can to get gas prices and other prices to come down. Launching that new student loan website that at least 14 million people have signed up for the forgiveness. Again, another big gift to a potential swath of Biden and Democratic supporters. And then talking later this week again about accomplishments in Pennsylvania regarding the economy and infrastructure. All of it designed to do what he can do with 21 days to go to help Democrats across the country even if he can't campaign alongside them because he's too unpopular to do so.
Political gifts or the promises thereof in a campaign season. Imagine that. Ed O'Keefe at the White House. Thanks so much.
Take care.